But basically what we're going to do is a very, kind of a very easy, fun landscape using torn paper. And what I did was I printed out my little image that's what you have in color, but I printed mine out in black and white. And that's just really a reference for me as a guide, but I don't need it. And what you have, so the supplies we need, your art journal, if you have it. I mean, in today, you don't even have to do this in your art journal. In fact, I'm doing it separate from my art journal. The reason being is, see if I can grab something here. Well, the reason being is I'm able to do the composition first, and then I can cut it out. So like if I do my composition, this is my little drawing. I don't know if you see it, but I'll do it a little bit more obvious so you can see it with my pencil. But I just kind of lay out a simple composition, and I want it to be a little bit smaller than my art journal page, this is my art journal page below. The reason I want to do it on a separate sheet is, let's say we get messy with the papers, we can always trim it to the size we want and then place it in our art journal. So it kind of frames the picture up a lot more than just doing it in the art journal directly. So, but you're welcome to do it in your art journal too. So what I did was I sketched out with my little, I just used a pencil, and I'll just quickly do it here just so to show you. So what I did is I just kind of thought, okay, here's my foreground. That's a foreground. I don't know if you can see that. It seems like my camera's really bright, but I'll make it darker. So here's my foreground. I think about a foreground image, and then I think about the middle. So whatever, it could be mountains, it could be the beach, but here's the middle ground. And then I have the background, which would be the sky. That's all back here. And if I want to have clouds, let's say, we want to have some fun clouds, you can just do a quick sketch. And this is how we'll lay out our picture or our torn paper landscape. Very loose, nothing that you have to stick to either, by the way. One thing I thought about and I didn't do, I could have painted my background with acrylic paints. Let's say if I'm doing blues, I could have done a blue background. That would also be a nice way to start. Or if I was going to do a sunset, I'd do an orange background. So there's different ways to do these kinds of things. I might even just do it on this. So what else you need is you need some white glue, like any type of white glue. And I use glue brushes because I don't like playing with my fingers, like a bristle brush or a glue brush. And for me, I kind of wanted to go oceany, I wanted to do things that remind me of the ocean. So I found some magazine pages that had some of the colors that I was looking for, blues, and you want an assortment of light and dark in your colors. And it doesn't just have to be magazine pages. It could be decorative paper scraps, which I have here. I have some papers that, if you remember, I don't know if we did it in class, but these are jelly printed rice papers. And I just sort of, found some papers in the colors that I was looking for. And some of these were I already tore these, but I'm not going to use those right away. But just, so just kind of find papers that you are in your range, your color range. And you want dark, medium, and light, just like you have a foreground, dark, medium, and light. You want your papers to have the same value. That's basically the only rules that we're going to have today. So just some little tips on tearing paper. So this is my foreground, but I think I will do it on this one. I'm going to use this really large piece to start. Now, the thing about doing tearing papers, let's say, I'm just going to use this one. I'm going to use a dark, just starting with dark right here. This could be like a mountain, and then I could do beaches. The beach could be following. But when you're tearing paper, you need to find the grain of the direction of the paper is being, and you'll know what that is by when you're tearing. If it tears easily like this is, you can see it's just a nice straight line. You're going in the direction of the grain. We've got Leah Parker, she's coming in. So little tricks on tearing, just test your paper and you'll know what direction it's going in. Let's say if I'm going to check this direction, and when I try to tear it, it's a little bit more jagged, and I'm having a harder time making a straight line. That's something that's beneficial, but just know the direction of your paper grain. So I'm going to say hi to Leah. Welcome, Leah. Glad you're here.
I couldn't use my iPad, so I'm on my phone.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're here. Glad you're
don't
here.
know.
Yeah. Well, we'll catch up. I'm just starting. I'm kind of talking about our supplies and what we need to do. And I don't know if, I hope you guys can see this okay. Anyway, I mean, I could change the brightness of my camera if it's too bright. For some reason, this one's just like really grabbing a lot of light. Or I could turn down my light. I'm going to try that real quick because I'm noticing it's really bright. So I'm just going to turn down the volume of the light a little bit and see if I can soften that a little. Get a little bit. There we go. Yeah, that's a little bit better, I think. Okay, so I was explaining the grain of paper when we're tearing paper. When we're doing, and you can notice there's a white core in most papers, except for color core papers, but most of them will have a white core. That could be a benefit if you want to do, areas that need highlights like the ocean, that would be great. But if you don't want to have that white showing, you just tear your paper. Like in this one, I'm going to tear the paper and I'm going to use this edge, which does not have the white core. And you can guide that paper in whatever direction you want. And now I've got like a little mountain foreground kind of mountain scene here that I could start. I'm just going to do this. Let's just grab, this could be my first piece of paper. I'm just going to do it. But you could start by tearing your papers and then we're going to glue afterwards. So for the sky, so I got my first piece of paper for that. Now for the sky, I found this gorgeous blue, which is a sky anyway, so it's perfect. I'm just going to go ahead and tear that. And you can see I'm going against the grain, so it's a little more jagged. You can see how that looks like almost like mountains or something, but it's interesting. So if I go in this direction, it's much smoother. So that's just kind of how you're going to be able to determine how you're going to make your scenes. This already made a looks like mountains already just by doing that. So just tear out some strips, and like in this one, I'm just going to tear, and I'm just going to create some strips in different widths, different lengths, and I'm just going to kind of get some medium, light, and darker papers, and then I'm going to start gluing, and then we can just kind of fill it in as we go. Here's another. This is a pretty catalog. I think I'm going to go ahead and tear some of that. And even if it has some printing in it and things like that, it's still going to look great. So just start kind of getting the colors, looking for the color ranges that you want. So I've got medium, dark, and light. And if I want to go really light, I can save some. Here's some nice lighter pieces. So just grab and tear into horizontal strips, and then we can start gluing. So the first thing, and we're going to do several sections, so no worries, you can get lots of pieces. Here's a nice long strip I'm going to go ahead and tear. And because I'm going in the direction of the grain, I'm really getting a nice, even, really nice tear. And then going in the wrong direction or the other direction, of course, I won't get those nice, it'll be a little more jagged, but then it could be an effect that you're looking for. So that's okay. So just start tearing and have fun grouping your papers into color sections or color. So I've got my light kind of blue here, my darks. Let's see, I think I might want to grab, maybe get some thinner ones for the darks. Here's a nice one for the darks. And then my medium. So I've got light, medium, dark. So I'm going to put each one in its own section. So I'm going to classify that would be medium and just start tearing away. I'd say that's a medium blue, medium, got some light. So just keep, and if you have some, whatever you've got in your collection or your magazines or scrap paper or anything, this is a nice kind of a light color. So I'm going to put that in my light. I'm just going to tear pieces and bits, and then we can use big pieces and small pieces. So I've got there my lights, and then I'm going to do, here's some medium blue. I'm just going to tear that. And I've got this really gorgeous kind of green, kind of darkish That's sort of on the dark side. So I'm going to call that the dark paper. And then here's another medium. It's almost getting on the dark side. So once I've got enough of, I've amassed enough of my darks and lights, then I'll start gluing. So here there's some kind of a medium. This is patterned. I think that's really pretty. That's really pretty. So I can say that's kind of a medium-ish. And just keep working on this. Like here's a nice dark. So I've got a nice dark value there. So light, medium, and darks. Once you've got those, and you can see I'm just keeping blue colors because I want to do the ocean. So I'm just gonna, I've got my mediums, my lights, and I don't have enough light. That can go in the light too. I'll get some more light as I go, I think. I think I've got enough dark to do it. And now we'll start gluing. I'm gonna grab some more light. I think we need more light. So I've got, that's gonna go in my light category. And this could even go lighter. Okay, so now I've got 3 different values. And now this is going to be, basically, Leah, when we first started, I explained that instead of doing it in the journal directly, what I'm doing is I've got a piece of paper that's separate, and I'm going to paste all this stuff into a separate piece. And it's going to get messy. The borders are going to be messy, and it's going to be uneven. But then after it dries, I can trim it, and then I'll have a beautiful little landscape that I can put into my journal. So that's kind of what we're doing with that today. And this is the reference photo, and in the chat window, and you may not be able to get that in the phone, but in the chat window, this is the reference landscape. It's black and white, but this can be in any color. You can make purple mountains, you can make orange, whatever you want. You can make a sky that's sunset, oranges and reds. But what you want is a foreground, which is this here. This medium horizontal stuff is the medium, and then, or that's the middle ground, and then we have the background, which is receding, and it's going to be more light. And that's basically the only rules that we'll have. So we've got our glue. So the first thing we need to do is just lay down some color. And I'm going to just take this one here, and I don't want to do large areas too much because doing that, then gluing is a little harder and it's a little bit more of a pain. So I'm going to take a couple of strips here. And if you notice, this is a lot more jagged, but those could be my clouds if I wanted to make them clouds. And if you have rough edges, just kind of get rid of those, or not rough edges, cut edges. You want to kind of get rid of those so they don't look obvious in your collage. So here there's the edge, so I can do that. But this would make a beautiful, maybe those can be the clouds. That background of the white could be the clouds. And however I want to do this, I'm going to just go ahead and do it like this. I'm going to put the glue, I'm going to start by just doing the glue. If you have something, you can put the glue directly on your paper. In fact, you should do that rather than putting it on your collage pieces, because that's going to get crazy. You would want to take your glue and just put it directly on your paper that you're working on. And you'll still be able to see your little sketch underneath because it's there. You can see the glue won't make it disappear. You'll see it still. And so maybe just put some glue on the first, since we're doing the light, starting with the sky, I'm going to put some glue over my whole sky area, brushing it on nice and giving it a generous amount. And I'm just going to cover the whole sky. And there we go. Now I got to start. So now I'm going to lay this first piece down. And it doesn't have to be perfect because, and you can see now it's nice and flat because I've laid the glue, I did the glue instead of trying to do it on the paper. It's nice and flat, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to lay this down over here, kind of to make a kind of impression of a cloud. And you can see I'm overlapping off the side of my paper. That's okay, because I'm going to trim it. And then if you want, you can take that glue, same glue. Of course, if you have, I'm not using gel medium, I'm using white glue, so it's wrinkling a little bit more than I'd want, but hey, it's all right. It doesn't matter. The wrinkling will give it more of a natural look. If you want it to be perfectly flat, I would suggest dampening or using some gel medium and getting them both sides wet and then letting them dry. But it should be fine. It's a little damp, I mean, a little bit wrinkly, but that's all right. So I'm just going to put some more glue over the whole thing like this. And I'm going to put some a little bit lighter color inside there, like I have maybe a medium color, like maybe this. And just start tearing and just laying your pieces over. And here I've got a rough edge. I want to get rid of that rough edge. I'm going to tear that rough edge or that straight edge. We don't want that. That doesn't look natural. So I'm just going to put it right over. And now just start pasting and gluing your pieces in. And then everything will all come together, keeping it in a horizontal kind of orientation. And if I'm using the white glue, I think I wished I had used the gel because this is sticky really fast. Gel medium would be less sticky. It stays less tacky for longer. And so I've got some lights. Let's see what else. I'm going to add some mediums into the landscape here. And this one's I'll just start with this one. So my horizon is right here. I'm just going to go ahead and put some glue down. Maybe I'll switch over the gel medium. So if you have that, you can do that. I'm going to just lay that down to make a horizon. And really you're just going to kind of just keep doing this, just keep adding layers of torn pieces. So I'm going to switch over to some gel medium real quick and see if that makes a difference. Some matte gel I've got. I'm going to just use that instead and just see if I have a better experience because the glue is a little tacky. But you can use glue stick, anything really, as you're laying these pieces of paper down. So I'm going to do another medium color. I love these blues. And this time I'm going to put the gel medium on top of this. And then I could always put some gel medium on the paper as well. This will be much less tacky than the white glue. The white glue starts to be tacky really fast, and the gel medium does not. So I think you'd be better. You'd be happier, yes, with the experience of using gel medium. I just kind of thought the white glue would work, but it's just a little too much, a little too tacky, too quickly. So some medium tones. I'm going to just take more paper and just keep tearing. And you can do like triangular shapes, like here to maybe some sort of give me the impression of a mountain or whatever you want. You just can put it on any way you want. I'm just going to put some more gel. Now this will get this will get crazy looking, but once we trim it, it's going to be really much more fun. I'm just going to lay this down. Basically, you want to cover up all that white, I think. We can always add light later. So we've got a little bit of that. And with the gel medium, you do have time to reposition and just brush it or rub it on with your fingers, whatever you're comfortable with. Yeah, like that. Glue stick will work. So I'm going to show you the difference. I don't know if you see this, but on where I've been working with just the gel medium, there's no wrinkling. And up here, where I started with the white glue, there's a lot of wrinkling. So, that's just what happened. So I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to cover up this white glue area. And I'm going to just lay some light color over. And this time I'm using, there we go. Just want to try to kind of cover up that wrinkled stuff, but it may not. Here I've got, just going to let that lay over there. And you'll notice like if there's color underneath, you'll get patterns and lines and things going on. I love this dark edge that's happening. And just kind of start things. You can make tearing that goes in both directions. And start with your larger pieces first, and then we'll come in with lighter pieces or smaller. So here I'm going to do the bottom, the foreground with a dark piece. Just cover that with the gel medium. and lay down. You get your foreground in. You'll see just notice there's a place, I just need to make a mountain shape. So I'm going to tear that so that it goes down. And I can do the same thing. I can shape those tears to look like the mountains that I'm trying to portray. So there it is right there. So I've got like a little mountain shape. It's dark. Of course, I may cover that up anyway, and then just get the undersides. If it doesn't stick, go ahead and get those undersides. I'm using my piece of paper as a background just so that my table doesn't get glued on. And here I'm just going to lift up and put some gel medium down and then brush over it. And I'm going to keep adding, and I'm going to use my dark pieces for the foreground. And here's a really gorgeous piece here. There's also something that I think I've told you about. It's a slow drying paste. It's called Nori Paste. It's a starch-based paste. And that paste is really gorgeous for working like this because it gives you time to reposition. You can use any kind of starch paste that you make as well. I think we've done that before in our class. We've made our own pastes. Just to keep laying down, get your dark, medium, and your light colors. And I see that I need much more light up here at the top, so I'm going to just do some smaller pieces. And if you have clouds and you want your clouds to go in the direction of a cloud, let's say they're kind of going in a diagonal, you would change the direction of your tears. Like, let's see, I'll show you what I mean. So here, I'm just going to make my clouds kind of going up in this direction. And that gives me that direction I'm looking for. So basically, we're painting with paper is what we're doing. And so you just have fun with it. Don't worry about it being perfect. It's just we're having fun with large torn pieces of paper and small bits and pieces. And you're just creating a landscape. And it's going to be whatever you feel like. Today, I'm going to the ocean, and I'll have the mountains, then the ocean, and maybe some islands in the background. Who knows? We'll see how it works. Here's another bit of pretty color. I don't know what this is. It's kind of a rice paper. It looks like it's origami paper, but you see I've made some really light, torn in some light things. I think I'll use that later for detail. Just in the meantime, I'm going to use more of larger sheets to get that background covered, just to fill it in, and then we can go in later. Just put them in and just kind of keep playing, and you'll see maybe your original idea is underneath and is completely morphed into something else, but that is okay. You want it to turn into something else. It could be a landscape of your imagination. Here comes another piece that I wanted to lay down to cover up that white. But having white is also a good thing, but in this one, I'm going to just finish that, kind of fill that in. And I've got some kind of watery looking patterned paper. And I noticed my magazine page, I kind of lifted up some of the, I lifted it up with my fingers. Had my finger on it. So if you have coated papers, just kind of be careful when you're working with them. They will lift off. It happens. So what I can do is I can basically take another layer and just go ahead and cover it up. Nobody will even know. I'm just going to take that little section here and paint over it, and then just go right where that little paint got, or that coating got lifted. And now I'm just going to kind of paint over it. Paint over it with the paper. And I'll do the same on this side. I'm just going to try to make this mountain range. And what I could do too is if I need to have areas where I need to differentiate light from dark, like right now it's pretty, we've got our dark, medium, and light. So I'm going to pull in some more lighter colors up here, keep the darks down at the bottom, and then I've got a composition happening. I really love this blue paper. It's got a really nice fibrous edge, very soft edges. And you can do that with tissue paper. If you have tissue paper gives those nice soft edges, or rice paper, kind of a nice feathered edge that might be a desirable edge. What we could do too is, let's say these dry and you wanted to add some painted elements, or a stenciled element, or another cutout of maybe a sun or something, or you can detail later, but just laying down, making the foundation and laying down color really fast and not thinking too much about it. So I've got some water. I love the idea of making water, so I'm just going to go ahead and keep adding these little water elements. This is from a magazine. I think it was a Glamour magazine, or could be a Vogue. I have a friend who's a magazine. She loves magazines, and I get to have her throwaways, and I love it. So I'd like to kind of start working to get these highlights, so I can get some highlights in the water. So I'm just going to save these little torn bits that have the white in them, just to show highlights. Now, if you want to do little pieces, just take your medium and just paint the little piece, and then turn it over and lay it on your composition. I'm just going to bring it right there. And then you can just take some gel medium and paint right over it. So there's some white happening here. I'm just going to keep getting these lights inside here. There's a little dark thing, which might be fun to do, maybe to do a little island or something in the background. So now I'm taking my torn bits, and I'm painting on the back first. And then I'll pick it up and lay it onto the painting or the paper here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and put another coating. So that will wet both sides, and I think that will minimize wrinkling substantially, and it does. So that's a little tip I forgot to mention earlier on. And now I'm just going to go ahead and keep adding the lights for my sky. And I'm not going really thick on this gel medium. I'm kind of keeping the coating fairly thin, so I don't want a big globby mess of things, but just enough to stick it down. And then just another coating on top. And I notice I have a straight edge here. I didn't want that. I forgot to get rid of that straight edge. So I'm just going to take it and tear so that it looks more organic, more real, I guess. So just keep adding. You find little bits of dark areas or light areas, like this would be this little dark. This looks like a dark area with a light edge. I think that'd be really fun. Just start as you build it. Start looking for things that will make sense. Like, okay, this is light for the clouds, and this will be for the other areas. I do have some rice paper that's really light. It's actually white. I can tear that and create little puffy clouds, which I think think that'd be really fun. And just be able to and I can make them go in any direction instead of just straight across. I think they'd be fun to just put maybe like in this sections here. And it's good to add the really light lights at the end, and the dark darks at the end. You just kind of build your middle tones, and then start making light and dark contrast a little bit more to make it a much more interesting composition. So here, I'm going to go ahead and put those 3 elements as my clouds. Just going to paint a little medium on the back. And if I said this isn't a clean process. It's kind of messy. If you have an allergy, or if it bothers you to have glue on your hands or things like that, really by all means use rubber gloves if it makes you more comfortable. I usually do use rubber gloves because I don't like having a lot of stuff on my hands. I work with art supplies so much. It's nice to kind of give my hands a break. But today I'm throwing caution to the wind. And I'm just getting my hands all gooby, so that's all right. So I've got my clouds going through, and you could use this same technique with the white papers that have that, the rice papers are perfect if you have them. If you don't, magazine pages work, or just typing paper, anything that's pure white, but the tissue part of that, or the edges that are nice and soft when you tear them, really makes for a nice look. So I'm going to kind of fill in this area where it's white. Basically, I don't want my background page to show, because then it doesn't look finished until you've completely covered every part of your background. And I'm going to turn this around this way. That's another little cloud element. And maybe another one here. I'll do a little skinny one. And what you do is go in the direction. Like if you have mountains, you can make the edges, you can just follow the direction of using your paper as the paint, and just follow the direction of your clouds or your mountains or your river, if you're doing anything like that. So I've got the skies coming together. Trying to get one more white piece if I can find it. I've just got some plain magazine page. I'm going to try to it's a little hard to tear into a nice rounded soft edge because I'm trying to go against the grain, but I'm going to try. It's kind of working-ish. And it's not as pretty as the rice paper, but it's going to have to do. I'm going to put it right in this section. There we go. And if I can find some, I know I've got rice paper laying around, let me just grab it. But if you don't have rice paper yet, and this would be this is like some paper that I have. It's such a handy paper to have because it gives you those perfect whites, but it also gives you those beautiful soft edges, those beautiful soft torn edges, and I'll show you what I mean. So super soft, kind of cloud-like. You can see how soft those edges look, and they really don't have a grain. Rice paper does not have a specific, it does, but nothing as severe as regular papers. So if you don't have rice paper, you should get it just to have for many techniques that you'd be doing. I'm going to pull this one piece off because that just wasn't working. And I'm going to put this one right there. So now my clouds are coming together, and you can make thin strips to give you the different types of clouds that you might have. And I'm just going to put that one right, maybe a skinny strip. Really skinny, right there. There's an artist, her name is Elizabeth St. Hilaire. She has a beautiful, she makes paper, that's her thing. She does collage with different colored pieces of paper, and she makes amazing images and pictures. And if you have a chance to check her out or even take one of her workshops, I would love to. When things open up, I plan to go to Sedona Art Center and take some of her paper collage classes. Now, I see that my little composition, you can see how it's looking here. It's looking pretty landscapey just by the random tearing, but now I want to kind of fine-tune things just a little bit. So I'm going to take some more deliberate tearing, and I want to get my horizon much more obvious. And I see this little dark spot here, and I really like it. Now I'm going to just use my scissors right now, and I'm going to find the dark piece here, the darkest one I've got. See, there it is. Pretty dark piece of paper here, and I'm going to create a straight line. If I had a paper cutter, I'd have used that. Just going to cut a line straight across. And now I'm going to make a little mountain range, and I'm going to hopefully this will work. And if it doesn't, you just keep trying. I'm going to make a little thin mountain range, and I'm going to just kind of vary the width, and I may just tear off this little piece right here, and I'm going to kind of create a horizon. you can kind of see right where I'm going here. Get this to look right. So I'm just going to find my horizon, which is right across here. It's really probably helpful to have this out of the way so I can see it better. So I'm going to take my glue, my medium, and I'm just going to put a little, get this on there. And I'm going to follow this little black, this was kind of the beginning of that. I thought that just looked really great. And I'm just going to follow a line to create a horizon. And this reminds me of the beach. When I lived in Santa Barbara, there were Channel Islands are right there. And you could basically, the ocean, you have the mountains, the ocean, and then you have these islands in the distance. And I really kind of wanted to depict that. So I'm going to do the same thing. I've got a little piece here. I'm going to just make that dark. Just going to tear it. See if I can, which way I'm going to go here. I'm going to just try to make some little island shapes. Maybe, there we go. And see what I can get. There we go. And now I've kind of created another little horizon thing going right there. I think that'd be great. And then just keep it really thin right here. Have it stop right there. And I just want to find my horizon and lay it down. So that cut edge really gives, kind of helps. Just giving that little cut edge kind of helps to define that horizon. So that's kind of that little secret there. You don't have to tear all the time. You can actually use some cut pieces to just give you that look you're looking for, which is a nice horizon. So I just attached that so you can see now it's starting to look more like an ocean or some kind of scene like that, clouds. And here I can just keep adding to give the water reflection or line. And we can also go in later with, you can also just add little bits, like here, if I want reflection, I could just tear, maybe cut another piece, a straight piece. Again, let's see, use that. Just going to cut a straight piece here, all the way across. And then I thought it'd be fun to do a reflection, kind of, how things are reflective. So here, the island that I have is now reflected in the water. So I've got a straight piece here, and I'm just creating a reflection in the water. I don't have to do that. I'm just kind of, it's an idea. That's kind of how you would do reflections. Let's see. And then I want to add some light colors again, because light is important with your reflection if you're doing water. So I'm just going to take maybe get a little reflection here, but that may be too light. That's too light. So I'm going to go use some medium blues again. Here we go. A little bit of this pretty color here. So basically, just the layout of this collage is starting to happen. I'm starting to feel that there's something fun about it. And then I'm going to show you the difference when I trim it, what a difference it's going to make. Just trimming it with a pair of scissors or whatever you've got that will trim your paper down, it will make a huge difference in the finished piece. Got somebody come in, Melissa. Oh, okay. There we go. So now I'm just going to add a couple more of these medium colored blues and just kind of building my collage up a little bit more. Just put it right on the end, maybe right there. Hi, Melissa. Hello.
Hi there.
How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm sorry. Yeah, my glasses broke, so I had a little dilemma.
Sorry about that. It's no fun to have your glasses break.
I needed my eyes back, so.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here. It's just a torn paper collage layering with bits of, colors and textures. And you could see how far I've gone here. What the most important thing was to tear pieces of paper in medium, light, and dark values.
Okay.
And starting the composition by kind of finding a foreground, a medium, and a background. And we start with the background, and this is a sky, kind of building up a sky. Then I have the islands with a little ocean thing going here, and I'm not sure, but I'll just keep working on it. But this is a separate piece of paper than my journal. And what I'll do is, you see how rough this is on the edges, right? Well, after this dries, I'm going to trim it. And then it's a painting, and I can put it in my journal. I can put it as my journal cover, or I can just put it in the pages of the journal, or it can just be a picture on its own. So that's kind of what I wanted to share, was that you make a really rough collage, and then you can trim it down using your, using a paper cutter or anything else, and then that just kind of gets it to a really nice finished piece. So here I'm going to just throw in a little bits of sparkle for the water, and I have glue all over. I have medium all over my fingers, so I've got. Now, if I wanted to do sun or light, or have a place for highlighting, I could do that too. Like here, I could maybe take my water and just do some middle ground, or have some light areas. But this was a beach scene, but you can do it with any color, any types of colors. If you have warm colors, but you start with large sheets, large tears, and then you finish with smaller bits as you start with the large pieces, and then keep working to get smaller and smaller.
Are you using Yes Paste, or are you using a different medium gloss?
I'm using just gel medium. I started out with glue, and that was a mistake. Glue just wasn't being my friend. So I'm creating a little highlight. I'll just show you what I'm doing here. So I'm using just matte regular medium, but Yes Paste would be a really great one. White glue dried too, it just got sticky too quickly. So I stopped using the white glue. It just depends on how fast you're working. I mean, I forgot that with this, you want to have a little time to reposition, so having the just white glue just made these magazine pages just tear really easy and fast. So I quickly switched over to a more repositionable medium, and Yes Paste would be perfect for that. And this is just a fun thing you can do with kids, your grandkids. You can do it with, it's actually a great school project for people who are teaching, because it leaves so much room for creativity and loose expression. There's really no rule, except we're trying to follow rules of rules of composition and landscaping, but even that, you don't even need that. If it gives you the feeling of the place you're trying to go, then that's the best part of it. It's just the experience. And what I mentioned is if you put the glue down first on small pieces, and then you can press your piece down, it's probably better than trying to glue the small piece. So I'm just going to lay down a layer of glue, and then I'm just putting the smaller pieces down. And that gives me a lot more freedom, because trying to do it, oh boy, don't even want to go there. What's going to happen though is it builds layers. You're going to get texture, and it's going to feel really neat when it dries. It has this really wonderful, nice kind of tactile feel to it. And once it's all said and done, everything's all finished, then what you do is you can seal it with some matte medium or gloss, whatever the medium of your choice that you might have. And I just kind of making little marks there with my little white pieces. And then that will be probably I think what I'll do is leave that alone. I can sit here and glue all day. Here, now that we've got the swing of it. Here I might want to add I could see I have a little horizon with some of that going, and I like that. And I'll kind of probably want to get some of that same dark down here, which maybe I can just add a little more dark right down at the bottom, just to kind of repeat that mountainy sort of look, or the island look right in here. And this was a very glossy piece of paper, and it just, the coating lifted right up when I touched it. So I just have to be careful of that. Maybe I could fill it in with some black paper later, or black paint later. It's all it's up to you how you want to do your composition. I can't wait to see what you're all doing. If you want to share, I just want to say in advance, is that when I ask people to share, you don't have to. I don't want you to feel ever forced or pressured into sharing a piece of work that you've done if you're not comfortable with that. If it feels like, you don't feel like you're happy with it, it's okay. Just you don't have to share. I only do that if we want to. It's never ever something that you're required to do in our classes. Always know that you can say, I don't feel like sharing that today. It's okay to say that. Nobody's going to judge you for that. So, in fact, we never judge anybody here. This is a place of total safety and creative fun, and that's it. There's no other motive at all, or no other agenda. So I'm just going to put my last little bits of dark to kind of tie in. Ooh, there's a little part I need to tear off. So there we go. Just going to tie this little part together. I wanted that dark to kind of be picked up there, right there. So there, I've got it. So I think I've got my composition the way I want it. And if it's dry enough, I'm going to show you what happens when you cut it, when you trim it. So I'm going to stick my brush in the all right, so now my back side, you can see where the rough edges are. I can trim it with scissors, which is totally fine. So I'm going to turn it around, and I'm just going to take the edges that are rough, that are hanging over, and I'm just going to cut them off. It's still wet, but I can do that with my scissors. Okay,
What kind of paper is that baby blue? Is it are the blue shades? Are those what kind
like
of paper?
these here?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's my that's the pure paper. It's a color core paper. It's an origami paper.
Oh, it's an origami paper. Okay.
Yeah, it happens to be origami paper. Some of this glossy stuff is a magazine, which I'm having a little trouble with. This is a catalog page, but it's got a nice feel to it.
Yep.
I kind of have just a mixture, but the rice paper is what I'm using to get my lights, which is really nice, the white.
Awesome.
I'm just going to keep trimming this off, and then waiting for it to dry is probably optimal, but I want you to see how fun this is. And you can do this on a smaller scale, on a bigger scale, whatever you're comfortable with size-wise. This one is an 8x10, but you could do it, a little tiny postcard would be really cute too. But see the difference, there we are, that I trimmed it, now it looks a lot better. It looks more like a little painting. And when it dries completely, I plan to even probably trim it a little bit more, and I just like it. I think it looks like a little scene. I can still add, maybe after it dries, I can look at it a little bit longer. I think, in fact, I want to add, I'm just looking at this. I love this blue. So I'm going to probably add some more of this blue, maybe a little bit here, maybe right there, and a little bit over on this side to kind of tie it all together. And then I will call that one. So this collage, really from start to finish, I think that would look better to have it like that. And then, but I won't glue it in now, I'll wait. I'll just wait. I want to see what everybody else how you're doing. So, but that is hopefully you had some fun doing it. I sure did, creating these fun little compositions with our torn paper.